I've just come in from filming this little video for you, and there's so much in it. I didn't realise just how much I could show you today. So I've been hard at it for the past 2-3 weeks, playing catch up in the garden and discovering all the things that are happening out there already without my help. So in this video we're going to cover soil health. We're going to look at soil health. You're going to have a look in, see my nightmare areas about what's good happening in there. We're going to look at how your garden can actually feed you without you putting in any effort in some areas, and what I do to manage my garden during the summer, and what we're doing in the garden right now, and also take a look at what I've got set in place to help me keep the weeds down with my chickens, and lots of other stuff. So come and join me for a little bit of a garden tour and chat as we just poke around all the different areas that I've been working in, and you can see where the plants are at. Some of the plants you probably may have never heard of that are high value in the garden. We're talking all edibles here. And so self-sufficiency, feeding your family and putting food on the table that is pest-free, herbicide-free, and all the other things that are good for you is where my garden's at, and where you can be too, or might already be. But I hope this inspires you. From Urban Homestead Artist. And what am I doing this time of year? It's just after Christmas. I'm already in the garden playing catch up and gorging on YouTube videos. That's the time of year I have a real indulgence in watching YouTube videos which inspire me and remind me of the things I haven't quite got in the garden or have to do in the garden, and I'm in and out doing that. So I'm about to go outside, but I'm just going to show you a couple of things inside what I've been doing. So we'll bounce around and I'll just give you an update and invite you into my garden and home to see what's happening because of the garden. So over here I have mulberry leaves. I had cut back the mulberry the other day, a few days ago, about 3 days ago, and you hear this crunch. I'm drying the mulberry leaves. They're not quite dry, they're starting to get crispy. I put them outside for a day because it was warm. Then I've brought them inside, mainly to keep it in a darker area. It retains the colour more, but I'm drying these for tea. I haven't tried it before, so it'll be the first time that I have mulberry tea when this is done. But all those leaves can be used. Now, one of my favourite mints is chocolate mint, and it does smell just like its name, chocolate. It smells like after dinner mints to me. And you know, the after dinner mints that you have, the little chocolate slice things that you can have with your coffee, they're usually a Christmas present. Actually, I haven't seen them for a while. So I collect the chocolate mint. If I've got fresh chocolate mint, I have it beside my machine in a little pot, and I take a few leaves and put it in with my coffee in the coffee machine. There is a video on my YouTube channel that shows you all about that. And when it's out of season, I use the dried chocolate mint. Now, this has taken a long time for me to gather this, and I've almost finished it, so I'm patiently waiting for my chocolate mint to leaf up, because I grew it in the shade and it was too shady for them over the cooler months, so I'm waiting for them to bush up so that I can use it. But I explained in the video also why it took me so long, so it won't be a mistake you made, but we had a bit of an accident. That's also in that video, and I'll post a link below. So I tried to collect seeds from my garden so that I can grow on my own produce and climatise the plants so they grow better each year. And so this is my popping corn. It's glass gem, and it comes up when it's fresh, it's very, very brilliant colours. It's just beautiful. This is what it looks like when it's dried. It's still very colourful, but not quite as colourful as when it's fresh. But I did save them, but I haven't planted them, and I'm very late. Not very late, but I'm late-ish for my corn this year. And I forgot to save seed. But after a bit of brush cutting in the area where the corn was grown last year, my husband brush cut it back for me, and I discovered cobs that were missed. I missed harvesting in that area. I only had a few growing. I had harvested some, but a few I'd left and hadn't got to. And so they were still there, nice and dried, some of it eaten, but the rest was still there. So I've got some cobs that I can, some little kernels that I can plant from this. And I didn't even have to bring it in. It's all ready to go. So what I have planted this year directly, and I've put some in pots, is the beans that we grew last year. And some of these beans, one was called Lazy Housewife bean. That was a beautiful climbing bean, and the seeds were given to me from a crop swap, just a local community crop swap. So they were grown locally, so they did well. And now I've collected the seeds that have grown in my soil and popped them in to my garden again this year, and a few into pots which will go into the garden too. But I put them in pots as well because I wasn't sure if they would get eaten by slugs. I've got quite a few slugs at the minute, and so I grew extra just to be sure. These are a couple I've popped into the garden a day or two ago, and then I've mulched with some sugarcane mulch. I like to use organic sugarcane mulch. And this bag had been sitting outside for months and months and months. Some water had got in, so it had, discoloured a bit, which was great because it started to be activated. So I prefer that than just the fresh stuff. This is my solitary sunflower, which I broke accidentally, and the thing is just trying desperately to still grow. I'm just wondering if I tape that up, if it will still grow. It seems to have grown more up the top since I broke it 2 days ago. So I might tape it. I might like you do with a break in a leg, tape it to that or something, and see if it can still grow. So I'm on top of these raised beds at last. My whole garden had been neglected for many months. I've explained that in an early video as well what happened. But now I'm working my way through, just spending 40 minutes any day I can at a time, 40 minutes at a time, going in and out of my house, recharging on videos and like YouTube, and doing other things, and in between getting out into the garden. You'll find if you just do a little bit at a time, it really does add up. Like even 15 minutes at a time. Sometimes I come out for 15 minutes, just do cut some things back, collect a few seeds, whatever, and bit by bit you start to catch up. So my tomatoes, I have got quite a few tomatoes in my garden, and but not many that I planted. So I've got a couple here. When I say a couple, I've got 5 in this garden bed that I've planted, that I bought from local seedlings that are doing well, and they've got tomatoes started on them. And I think it could be a good time for them to get them in now. I've got a very struggling cucumber there. It's just sitting, not doing a great deal. And what is that? Oh, there's a bean. Oh yeah, I've planted that bean. So they're the beans that I've planted from the seedlings. Beans don't particularly like to be moved. Best to plant them directly in the soil, but I try to, if I'm going to move them from a seedling, I try to get them early, so they've only just come up, and then I move them very quickly on a nice cool day where the soil's damp, keep it damp, and they don't seem to mind. so they're not too old. These beans here are scarlet runner beans, which are a 7-year bean. I say 7 years, but that's approximate. But they last around the 7 years, apparently. I haven't done 7 years with mine yet, so I'm yet to see. But this is the 2nd year for this one, but I've got, I think actually that's all about 2nd year for all my scarlet runners. And 1, 2, 3, no, that's the 3rd season, 3rd season for them to come up. This is the 2nd season for these. Anyhow, long story short, you put them in the ground, they come up, and they climb. So I've left my corn in from last year here. So they climb and climb and climb and climb. And they can climb for about, 3-4 metres. And they'll throw off these lovely pods, and they're a very generous plant. And they'll keep producing beans into the cooler months when your other beans are, not being... they don't like it, they die off. But the scarlet runner keeps going, and so you keep getting beans. They're potted beans. You can pick the beans. I'll take you over and see if we can find one. I have picked them, so I don't know if there's any on the plant, but there's some growing here amongst my young berries. Can we find one? So you pick the beans when they're young to eat as a green bean if you want, but otherwise they're a potted bean, so you eat the beans within the pods. They're a beautiful purple and pink, and they have lovely flowers, and the bees adore them. And I don't have any beans on it to show you by the looks. They're probably hiding in there, but I was hoping to show you a pod. There we go, we found one. Now this is the youngberry. I've got a thornless youngberry, but that's a feral bit that's growing in there. I'll have to pull that out. But here's the pods. They're not happy in the shade, a bit yellow in the shade, but they grow a lot bigger than that. So, but that's a little bit bigger than, see when they pod out like that, they beef up. Don't particularly like them. They can be a bit fibrous as a green bean to chop and eat all of that, but when they're flatter, they're okay as a green bean too. So these are some of the beans that I've direct planted, and I think I forgot to mark them, but I think I've got snake beans at the back here. I'm hoping. I did plant snake beans somewhere. I think those 3 there popping up are snake beans. So I'm trying again to grow them. I haven't had success yet. So we've got a volunteer tomato here that they're the rest of my tomatoes are volunteers, and they've popped up by themselves. These ones are popped up in a pot around a few metres away, and I've moved them to here to give them more room. Left one in the pot, and that right there, I'm pretty sure, almost sure, is a self-seeded sprouting broccoli, and its mama is here. I thought at one stage it was my walking stick kale, which is, there's one over there behind it, but it's grown up like that, unless it is a walking stick kale. But this kept on growing. I let it grow, and I keep feeding leaves to my chickens off these plants. So over in this bed we've got one of my favourite herbs, which a lot of people don't have in the garden. I highly recommend it. It's called salad burnet, and the little leaves on it are beautiful. They taste like cucumber, just like cucumber. Very refreshing herbs, so lovely to put in just to nibble on or to put in your salads, and it grows like a trooper. And excuse my pump going off there. And you can cut it right back and it bushes up, and it does drop its seeds and multiply itself, not to the point where it's a weed, like that's a weed, but it's a welcome self-seeder in the garden. As in a lot of things that self-seed in the garden, once you get it going, your garden can kind of half seed itself for you if things happen. That's my yacon over there, which I haven't harvested or divided. I've just let that grow on. And I've got a feeling, I'm hoping at the back, that is a, oh, I forgot the name. I'll put it on the screen. But I tried to grow them at the back there and I didn't think they had grown, but I think there's one growing. Now, that is a cabbage I've just let grow on for its leaves, even though it's got no heads. It's trying to grow a little head, but you can still keep eating the leaves, so I'll just keep growing. What have we got there? That's itself trying to multiply. Its seeds are dropping. Well, actually, I think a bird's stripping the seeds. But I think this is an all-season cabbage, and all the seeds will drop into place, and hopefully I'll have some growing by themselves. And this is the plant endive that is broken. Has a very pretty flower on it. And that will self-sow if you let it go to flower too. So sometimes I just leave them there for the bees and the birds, and when they self-sow, we get welcome baby plants, just like my beetroot here, which has grown by itself as well. So I think that's the original plant there, see, which I could still use for little baby leaves. I did chop it off thinking it would rot under there, but I haven't chopped it off low enough. But it's growing some babies for me. So they act as little gardeners, and you can just pull some seeds off, see a little spot in the garden, throw it on, and see, you know, just give it a bit of a wriggle. If it takes, it takes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Excuse my shadow. This was brush cut here, and we've put some more irrigation in. So when my husband was digging that, I discovered this. And this is actually a nectarine tree that I've managed to grow from seed. I'd put it in a little pot. There's a pot at the base, and I didn't think they'd grow, so I kind of dumped them at the end there. And there was 3 of them. They got knocked over, got overgrown. This all grew carrots and all sorts of things. Mainly the pepino just took over here. We haven't had much fruit off the pepino because the mice have got to the fruit. So we've been doing that mice and rat control with great success now. So I'm hoping I get some pepinos, but I'm growing one on the veranda just in case. Back to the subject. This was grown from a seed, a nectarine. So I'm hoping that this actually does keep growing. I'll have to dig it out of there. It would have grown its roots right through that pot into the soil. This is not an ideal spot for it. It's right in front of a heater, and there's already competing plants here. This is chocolate mint. I'm waiting to come back. God, please, please, please come back. But yeah, that was a nice surprise to find in amongst all of this. What has grown really well is the fig. And we have got figs starting on it right there. So I haven't had any figs off this. This is a baby that I put in. And I can't remember if it was a plant or a cutting. I think it was a plant that I bought. Also, I'll just check if that was in the pot. I think it was in the pot and then I moved it out of the pot. Yeah. Okay, so that's out of the pot. It was in a pot right near it and I've moved it. And that's sharing a space with bananas. So I'm keeping an eye on them because we actually removed them and they've kept growing in that spot. But they were overcrowded. We had lots and lots and lots of bananas growing in a clump, and they just couldn't do anything because they were all competing against each other. So took them all out, made horticulture beds out of them. Some have grown in other places. But these have continued to grow here, but I'm letting some grow back. It's a nice wet spot that they can take up some of the extra water that comes out of our tank. This is 3 pups that I put in and that are just going so well. Now we're talking about Melbourne here. This is my garden's temperate too cool. It's not really cool. It doesn't get as cold as some places in Melbourne or Victoria or Tasmania, but it still gets pretty cold. And it does lose, these bananas do lose their leaves in winter. They all burn off. I have a bit of mulch at the base of them, but I don't overprotect them, but they just bounce back. They seem to do just fine. Oh, it's sunny. So I have a banana around the other side. I just dropped my voice. I realised I've got a shift worker and he's not that far away. I'll take you around and show you how well that banana's gone. I have to do a bit of maintenance on that. But before I do, a quick look at another area I've been working on, and just so you can see where I'm at. So all the asparagus bed has been cut back. Not cut down, cut back like you do in winter, but just so I could get through there. This was completely blocked off. So the banana passion fruit's been cut back, and the asparagus has been cut back. That's one of my jobs, and we've cleared that veranda, that back veranda, back step, because you couldn't get through there. And over here, I've moved this. That was kind of drowning over there. That gets pretty hot too in summer. I had that up on there, and I didn't have enough holes in the polystyrene box. I was trialing a grow method, which I will share to you in the later date, because it was pretty successful, apart from the fact I should have put more holes in the bottom. And when you put the holes in, you put them not underneath but just in the side there, so it retains a bit of water. But things still managed, even though I got flooded, I still had tomatoes pop up in it, and the onion survived. So I think, I can't even remember what onion's in there. It looks like a bunching onion, but yeah, they still survived, even though it got almost like water chestnut conditions. Another volunteer tomato, and I'll let all these go because they usually do incredibly well. All this area, I will show you a quick have a look at what it was before. I could have sworn that I took video for you, but basically it was all like this area is. This is my side garden. So I basically just come in with a brush cutter, and then I've started weeding the gardens bit by bit. So I've got the oregano, depending on how you say it, growing quite happily. These are a couple of avocados growing by seed, which are doing better than my grafted one. I think they're a bit more shaded here. They're too close together. I have intentions of grafting onto them, and it's almost time to do that by the size of it, and giving that a go. And free seed, they just sprouted in the worm compost. If you stick avocado seeds in the worm compost and you've got a healthy worm farm, they are always going to grow for you. More yacon behind there, and here I've planted some zucchinis this year, and as I've trimmed a little bit of the volunteer, the nice healthy volunteer tomatoes here, which will throwing out tomatoes for me now, I just planted a cutting of it down there. The beans, sorry about that. Those beans have popped up very, very quickly. They're only put in, 2 days ago, max. I don't think it was yesterday, the day before. And there they are. The zucchini, however, is not up. I'm hoping they come up. This is a mulch bed reserved for things that don't mind shade. So I've let lettuce go to seed in there. My compost is hiding in a bit of shade there, and to the right of it I've got some cannas that I chop and drop with. So I basically grow them for mulch, and I chop them and drop them in amongst the garden. I've got more yacon in here, and my first lot of oca. I've not grown oca before. I got some tubers given to me. I tried them. I like to eat them. They taste just like potato. So more zucchinis I'm waiting on. Come on already. I'm really hoping I get some. So that's more yacon there, and my choco, which absolutely refuses to fruit. This is my third time it's grown back, and it's on warning. If it doesn't grow fruit this year, it's being moved. Yeah. Other side of the alley is very little soil, lots of stone. But the pepinos and the comfreys have managed to grow. There's irrigation there now, but there wasn't. So they've done really well. In this alley is this New Zealand native, which actually is a nitrogen fixing plant. It throws out a lot of shade, but you know, you work with what you've got. Another yacon which I transplanted the other day, and a volunteer tomato I discovered hiding in the shadow. I think this is rootstock, some kind of fruit tree rootstock, so that might have to be chopped out. If you know, please tell and comment below. These are the Jerusalem artichokes my grandson, who's now 3, put in a pot when he was about 18 months old, and they have been left in the pot, not harvested, so they've jumped ship or jumped pot and growing in the gardens. The roots have managed to go through the pot and pop up by themselves, so I'm going to have to be very diligent to dig them up this year, or we could have, my neighbours could have sunchokes. So they have been wonderful though, they're beautiful. You know, sunflowers, when I haven't been that successful growing sunflowers in time this year, and the red scarlet runner beans just love to grow up them anyhow. So they're great. They provide a great support for them. Now, because I have some irrigation down here, I can start beefing up the planting. But what I do try to do is plant in groups. So I think in the way of guilds, where you have different stories. So you have a top story, so I've got an elderberry growing here. This is a loquat tree that I want to grow. I've grown from seed, and so I've popped that in there. There's some red vein sorrel beside it. I've just put some thyme in for ground cover, and we have a bit of erosion since we put the fence in, and I want to get this soil a bit less movable before we fix that, or as we fix that. And got some strawberries in a pot here. The sprinkler actually comes out and sprinkles into that pot. I've positioned it deliberately. One of the volunteer tomatoes at the back there, it will get sun for part of the day, and the oregano is growing across the ground here, and so it's slowly moving out, which is good. I'll need to chop that back a bit. I've got a new little seedling, a horseradish seedling that I've never grown before, and I've kept it in a pot because apparently it can be a bit of a problem if you have it in the ground too. So that's in a pot, and I've also, this is pineapple mint, so another mint, of course, in a pot. I've also taken a cutting of that fig I showed you earlier, popped that in its own pot, and it's looking a bit droopy because it needs a water, but it was happy yesterday. And more beans in here. I think I planted the blue lake in here. Actually, I think they have different shaped leaves. So that's the blue lake, I'm pretty sure, which I grew in this pot last year. I grew some over here, and I grew some in here with a tromponcino. So I've put my yellow raspberries in here, but while they're getting going, hopefully, there's a little, see the baby down there? It struggled in a pot, a shallow pot I had in, was drying out all the time. Terracotta dries out pretty quickly, so I can't keep up to the pots too well unless we do something like that and pop these in, which I didn't have before. So I put that in a bigger pot that I know does well, and I've got irrigation in there. It's my struggling dahlia. Something kept on knocking it over. lilac in the pot. I've just planted some yarrow, split that up, planted that further down a little bit here, and I've put my galangal ginger in the ground after being in the pot. It likes being against this fence. It was a little bit further over there where the locust was planted. I've moved it down here now to give it its own space. All this area was weeded. I spent 40 minutes weeding this the other day. This is half my archway, and the other half we've just brush cut till I can get to it. Popped beans straight away, and today I'm noticing these. So I'm not sure what we've got growing here, but it's something that we've had here, and I'm not sure what it is, but it looks like something's trying to regrow. It could, I don't know if it's the feverfew trying to self-sow, but it doesn't, I don't think it looks like feverfew leaves, to be honest. First leaves are not the true leaves, so it's a bit hard to tell. But anyhow, if you know what they are, just tell me. I'd love to know. I can't think what I was growing here last year. It actually could even be zinnias. It could be any, I don't know. I don't know my baby leaves too well. So what do we got here? Garlic chives. You can tell the difference between regular chives and garlic chives because the garlic chives have the flatter leaves like grass. A grape that I struck from a cutting, and the ones in the ground are actually got bunches and bunches of fruits on, but that's one that was in a pot that got broken and it needs a bigger pot or a place to grow. And these are my spaghetti squash. I put a few seeds in thinking they might not all grow, but guess what, they did all grow. So I'm going to try and, rather than just snip them off, I will try and move a couple. I think I need to do that today because look, we've got true leaves coming through here. Yeah, I need to move them today. And the beans are coming up there. So I have made a start, even though we had this situation everywhere. Grass. We're just reclaiming bit by bit the ground. And finding the surprises, the volunteers. I'm pretty sure that all that in there is volunteer turnips, I think. Could be parsnips even. I let a parsnip go to seed. I got one to grow, let it go to seed right there. So that could have flown down there. But I had turnips all across there. And I let one go to seed there. And there's like, right there, there's that. So who knows? But it'll be one of them. I hope. There was mustard growing all the way over there, but I'm hoping it's more edible than mustard. And this yakon's had a bit of an issue. You can see down here, the mice or birds or somebody has discovered the eating tubers, and they've been burrowing down eating them. So the trick is actually to grow more than you need, and then if you lose a little bit, it doesn't really matter, because really I could pull the rest of it up and still get quite a bit of food out there. I just haven't got to pull it up. And we've got some regular chives growing on the end there. So as my plants beef up, I'll just move them around the garden. I'll just start dividing up and moving around the garden, and not because I necessarily need those things everywhere, but the biodiversity it creates, having all different plants planted in one spot creates a very active and versatile micro city underneath all your plants and right across your yard. It connects up the whole network in a much more productive way. So sprinkling around and popping in pockets, getting rid of the soil so I don't have as much weed issue. I'm probably never going to get across, probably never going to get on top of that grass, but I can shade out a lot of it if I have more plants, if I have more edibles growing, and when there's more biomass on my soil, more mulch, more stuff growing and dying on the soil, or chop and dropping, then pulling those weeds out are a lot easier too, because I know in different parts of my garden it just snaps it. If I try and pull those grasses out in some areas, it just snaps at the top. Some of them I'll pull out 1 metre of root system, just depending on where in my garden and how long I've been working on that area on the soil, working on the soil. To take you into the biggest nightmare, which is this, we are thinking about putting raised beds in here. And it might be a bit easier, but there's still a lot growing in here. So despite the fact there's grass, it's like the middle of summer now, so the grass is doing 2 things. It's giving me a headache, but at the same time it's covering the spare soil that I can't get to at the moment. It's putting roots in the soil. It's keeping the soil active, covered, so it doesn't get just burnt out by our hot Australian sun. I'm in Melbourne, but it still gets very, very hot here in summer. So as the weather fluctuates, that's what it's doing for me. It's also creating a nice little atmosphere for my volunteers to pop up. This is my calendula that's quite happy in here. It's grown in this area, and I have allowed the seeds to fall as well, and so I'm hoping more will be hiding amongst that grass as well. I've got the pine berries there, which is the white strawberries, and the spring onion's still going okay. That is a cranberry going okay. In fact, we've got cranberries on it by the looks. If we pull back, did I see some? Or did I see? No, I saw seeds. I thought it was the wrong time, but yeah, no cranberries on it at the moment. I was looking at the seeds from the parsley. So the parsley's gone to seed, and we'll have little parsley plants popping up there. But this is, I had peanuts in here that... Actually, I think there's peanuts growing in amongst it. I don't know. Nah, I think they're gone. Yeah, so this is one of the jobs I haven't done yet. But we've made a start over there. Here's our volunteers. I can't wait to see what they are. I'm pretty sure they are. That's a weed. Alright, these are seeds from beetroot that I've just chucked the box in there, so I could end up with beetroot in here too. But see, they're all popping up here, so I reckon that probably is the one that was growing here, which is the turnip. Hard to tell. As the leaves get older, they change, so it's a bit tricky. But in this situation, I have been very deliberate with letting things seed and go to seed. This is beetroot that I didn't get to harvest here when I walked away from the garden earlier this year, and but its seeds are going to be all through there, taking up that space. And see how the grass hasn't really managed to do much here, but when there's nothing, in it comes. One of the things I would highly recommend any backyard gardener that has chickens is to get one of those portable fences. So we have a fairly decent sized pen for our chickens, but I like to get them out into the garden area. They do a number of things. They keep the pests down, and they fertilise every area that they walk on, and dig up the seeds that are hiding too. So, they're really, really high value on your land, as long as you keep them out of your garden bed, because they'll just annihilate it. But to do that, you need to contain them. And building structures is expensive, but it also isn't always convenient. You still want to be able to get to your garden. So we had invested in a movable fence that has, it seems to be holding up really well. We've had it for several months now. And what we find is we can move it around the bed to fit the shape of the garden, in between the beds, or any areas the grass is really going nuts, and they just keep all those areas mowed down. It's attached to our pen, so they can we only have to hook up one end of it, and it has a gate area that you open and close, but it so it extends out from that area, so I can't kind of move it over to the other section at the moment, but it's been really good. It's kept a lot of these areas. I'll just switch around. So they keep a lot of areas right down. So, but all this, my chooks are used to the fence now, so I had it very tight and pinned down so they couldn't get underneath and everything. But once they got used to the idea they weren't getting out, I can actually just floppily, if that's a word, floppily, just pop it around and then keep moving it every few days. We can move it up into areas and round areas, and they can eat away that grass and the bugs near my garden. So anything venturing in and out the garden hopefully gets consumed by the chickens. So they are well worth investing in. Highly recommend them. I really wish we had done that right at the very beginning, but still, we've had this about 12 months, I think, and it's been fantastic. For those who are wondering, but Kayleen, what about foxes? Yes, we do have fox issues. In fact, we lost our first lot a couple of years ago to foxes. So our pen is highly, highly fox-proof. But of course, they are vulnerable when they're out in the open yard, especially with a floppy fence. But I never let them out unless I'm within earshot. I'm either right in the room next to them or I'm out with them. So I'm not confident to walk away from my chickens with the foxes. We haven't had any issues so far, thankfully. So yeah, foxes could definitely get past those portable fences. So I would recommend you only let your chickens out when, if you have foxes in your country, and they are right through Australia. Like we've got, I think in Melbourne we've got more foxes per square metre than any other state. So they are a problem, and yeah, I supervise my chickens. So I've got to at least be within earshot, and I'm listening out for them all the time. So yeah, not fox-proof. It's time for me to now enjoy that choc mint coffee. Yum. Choc mint coffee without chocolate, without sugar, in my cup that my friends, Sharon and Chris gave me. I particularly love the bit that says love by design, because everything's intentional. And everything you love is intentional. So plant a seed and try and be more self-sufficient. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye and God bless.